Hi there, and welcome to my channel that I am calling Work in Progress because I think that's what it's going to always be. At least that's what I'm beginning to feel, because I think everything is always changing, everything is energy. So why not this? So that's why I call it Work in Progress, because I don't exactly know what way this is all going to move or change or shift. But for right now, where my thoughts are and have been for quite some time now, although the channel's pretty new, so it can't be that long of time, is what my hope is that we can have conversations, just everyday people like you and me, about the stories of our life's journey and share these stories so that we can help others. Because I think this is really one thing that's needed right now and for some time as we're going through this evolutionary process as a human species, that it's more important than ever than we reach out to one another. And so I believe by sharing our stories of challenges that we've had, or difficulties or successes, or all kinds of stories that have been about our particular life's journey. And as we share those stories, it's definitely going to help others. So if this appeals to you and you're listening right now, just check below this video and you'll find my contact information, and give me a holler and we'll have a conversation and we'll see where this goes. So in the meantime, until we begin to do these conversations with one another, I'm going to continue to come up or talk about the downloads, the insights, my challenges, and what maybe is going on out there, because I think it's confusing for a lot of us. So right now, at this time, I believe that the universe is asking us to pay very close attention to the smallest of details regarding how do we make our decisions, what are our reactions to things, and again, down to the smallest of details. And the reason they're asking us to do this right now, to really start to identify, why do I react a certain way, or why do I behave in a certain way, or why do I believe a certain thing? Because these may be all programs and systems in place that no longer serve us as we're moving toward a different vibration here. So when I talk about the smallest of details, I mean anything from, going to the grocery store and having a belief, or there's a belief that certain brands are better than other brands, and you don't even think about it. That's what you go for. And maybe you grew up with that idea, probably, or maybe you've developed that idea in the past years, whatever, but you have a certain way of grocery shopping that you don't even think about it. It's automatic. This is what I'm talking about. The smallest of details is where it's automatic. So we're not even considering it or looking at it as, well, is this really still serving me? Is this really something that I'm doing out of being awakened, so to speak, or shifting my consciousness? So, I mean, there's all kinds of examples for this. It can be a belief in where you put your money. It can be a belief of, the whole brand buying. When you buy a certain something, this is how you do it. If you purchase a home, then you want to do this kind of a loan. Those are things that we kind of grow up with. And if we're not aware of where our decision making or our reaction to things is actually coming from, then we're just on automatic. There isn't a thought around it. Sure, certain things you're going to look at, like buying a home, interest rates, those type of things. But underneath all that, we may have a certain belief system that keeps us in a certain mindset, and we're oblivious to that. It's just, we're an automatic. It just goes all across the board of it, just everyday living, you know? Certain cars to buy, certain cars not to buy. You know, certain people that are okay and certain people aren't. Or certain behaviors are okay and certain behaviors are not. This is a way to plant a garden, not that way. It goes again across the board. Now, I'm not saying all of these beliefs are negative or bad in any way. Some of them are probably very prudent, very good. But the point that we want to look at, and that I believe we're being asked to start to examine, is where does this all come from? These thoughts about how to do something or how not to do something. And is it really serving us when we're just on automatic? And it's amazing, or at least I have found it to be, as you begin to really just in the moment ask yourself, let's say you're at the grocery store and you're doing something that's automatic, and you ask yourself, you catch yourself in that, and you can ask yourself, where did this start? Where did this begin? And as you begin to unravel these normal, simple, well, I guess normal, we call them normal, simple details of why and how we do things, it's incredible the insights that we can get. It can also come down to our self-talk, you know, how we talk to ourselves, or how we demand or not demand certain things of ourselves. And some of that, again, is automatic. We don't realize it because it's automatic. But how are we, how do we think we have to be in a certain situation? My thing in growing up was always about being appropriate, you know. Don't say the wrong thing. Don't dress in a certain way that might not be appropriate. When in conversation, you be appropriate. How do you, in terms of manners and how we're treating another person, and so on and so on. And many of it is completely automatic, not necessarily at all who I am, but something that I've taken on or learned at some point, and now it's just an automatic way. And so my thing with being so appropriate, because this was huge in my growing up, and this was certainly a part of the emotional abuse, was that I had to be perfect. That not, you know, it's it. There's a perfection. I didn't understand the perfection. Like, I've mentioned this before in videos, but it's a good example. Like, we'd be visiting relatives. I'm 6, 7 years old, and my sock would fall down, wouldn't be perfect. And my mother was, oh my God, your sock is down. Now, I didn't know that that was a problem. So I was always blindsided, oftentimes blindsided, but by her harassing of me at different, you know, whether we're at a relative's or whether we're at a restaurant or home, wherever, I would get blindsided by her telling me, oh my God, look at your hair. How did that happen? Or your dress got wrinkled, or you didn't speak right to the person, or you act like you don't know, like you can't talk. Because I was afraid to talk because it was going to be criticized, right? So I was coming across shy. Anyway, anything that I did, it seemed like then, wasn't perfect, but I didn't know how to be perfect until she would point out the imperfection. And as a kid, like, the sock was down was such a good example, because I got harassed for that many, many times. And also the being shy, and also not speaking up, and, you know, the list went on. So as an adult now, and long now, you know, as I grew into an adult, I brought all this with me. And it's only through the digging down to the very, very bottom of how do I where did all this come from that I demand of myself, is as it starts to bubble up and I'm really looking at it, I'm in like, oh my God. um, I just had this attitude that there's a perfection, and that I I don't know if I'll see it. So I'm always concerned about being blindsided. So I want to figure out my environment before I need to. I want to be very diligent in anywhere I'm at to figure this out and see if there's going to be any blind spots for me, or that I'll be I won't realize something, or I won't understand something. And it's kind of insane, and it's even hard for me to explain because it's so personalized, I guess, to me, and that it may sound like it doesn't make sense when I try to explain to somebody else. But there was always this wrong way of not being perfect, or wrong way of being, and that wasn't being perfect. And I could never figure out what perfect is, and evidently I still can't, because, like I said, I have this pattern of trying to figure out, am I perfect enough, so that I can not be blindsided, and then I don't have to have the self-talk where I have to beat myself up emotionally, because I didn't see something coming, or I didn't figure out the environment well enough, that type of thing. Um, you know, it would be to, whether, as in a work situation, usually these would be more social things, where, and it's interesting because I've always been very social, so it wasn't that I became uncomfortable being social, how in the social world, or being social, but it was just this pattern that was automatic of kind of judging and figuring it out, or trying to find, figure it out before the situation, whatever the situation was going to be. Knowing if I'm going to a particular party, the crowd that's going there, so I can know what's appropriate to be within that crowd. And again, it's so subtle that I don't even know I'm doing it. But when I started to, and have been really taking a deep dive into really catching myself, so to speak, um, it's been pretty shocking, because it doesn't serve me, it causes anxiety. Um, it's a self-worth thing. It's kind of related, like a spider web going all these different places. It one thing grows on another. It's hard to be really specific in a way that one may be able to understand what I'm saying. So I have no idea if this is making any sense to anyone at all. But maybe if you can look at something within your life that you have this is it, this is the way you do it, this is what you believe, this is how you do this is how you don't, or this is what you don't do. Or maybe for you on a social level, how does that work? For entertaining, that's been a big one for me too, because that has a very specific need to be, if there's such a thing as to be more perfect than perfect, and that's the thing with entertaining. So that causes me anxiety around entertaining, like this perfection. And it's always seemed like it's normal. Like, of course I'm going to be anxious around entertaining, because I can't, we don't eat, my husband does most of the cooking, I've said this before, but we don't cook in such a way that so-and-so does that entertains perfectly. Or, the house must be in a certain way for entertainment. You must have certain dishes and silverware and so forth. In other words, there's this whole category of how to do these things, And it is about perfection for me. That's this pattern of perfection, and it just shows up in so many ways. And as I've begun to learn that there is no perfection, it's only in somebody's judgment. So for me, trying to figure out perfection, it's impossible. It's just absolutely impossible. I used to think like I always had trouble understanding a map, but I thought most, the old maps, we used to tell you how to get here from here to there. And but I never realized that people were somewhat educated or taught in some way how to read a map. So I just thought people automatically knew either how to read a map or how to get from here to there. Again, perfection, you know. Um, oh, it's crazy. It really is crazy as I'm trying to even explain this thing. But I know it's important. I know it's important to start to look at the beginning of where the seed of how a certain reaction to things or a certain way of behaving or a certain way of being, um, figuring out where did that begin, because this is where we're just caught up in a program and we're not in the moment. We're not in allowing things to change because we're so automatic in our responses or our beliefs. And that's not being in movement. That's not flowing. That's not being in the flow of life at all. It's like it's just cutting it off. And so, it requires um, a digging, a real digging. It may seem like, well, who cares? What's the big deal here? Like, who cares why I do this or that? Well, in order for our human consciousness to evolve to these higher levels, we must release ourselves from being automatic with certain ideas, responses, or beliefs. And we release them, they get released by understanding them, by all of a sudden they get revealed. And also it opens up a whole other world of other options, other ways of doing things that can be much more in alignment with our own being. And therefore, we don't have the anxiety or the lack of confidence or all the things that it can bring up and do. These beliefs that we have that are kind of hidden or automatic take up a lot of energy, and it's not good energy. It's literally draining of energy. And for many of us, this is where exhaustion can come in, depending on what's going on in one's life right now. I think a lot of us are anyway exhausted from coming through this whole pandemic, because for most of us, that triggered all kinds of different fears, anxieties, beliefs, that whole thing. So that's a whole category unto itself. And so exhaustion can come from it. Let's say also, if you grew up with this belief that you had to have a certain amount of money or a certain style of living in order to be okay, and throughout the life, because it's not perfect, that you end up having some challenges that way. And so one day you find yourself not living that lifestyle that you grew up understanding that well, now you think you're unsafe because that was what was keeping you safe. So now you go into, oh my God, I'm unsafe, and you go into panic mode, and your life starts to just literally fall apart, which can be a good thing, because that's when you can discover, wait a minute, maybe this whole idea of a certain kind of lifestyle or certain type of lifestyle keeps you safe. all of this is unraveling. I don't know if this is making sense, and some of you, I'm sure, are thinking about what has caused you discomfort and anxiety, and have you discovered some of these things for yourself? So on one level, it can be pretty exciting because it can be like a scavenger hunt. You're looking for these different items and you don't know where to find them exactly. Well, this is within. It's an inquiry within ourselves. And as we begin to start looking and unraveling, then our guides will come forward and you'll begin to see clues all over the place. It could be a sign on a car, it could be, on social media, you might see something. It can be in a book that all of a sudden, pops in your life. It could be in a person saying something. It can be something that you heard on TV. It just comes all over the place. These clues, and you don't realize they're clues always right in the moment until that starts to kind of unravel. That's what I've seen for myself, is I just need to kind of start the thread, so to speak, pull the thread, and with the intention that I definitely want to know. I want to dig in. I want to find out where this all began. And then it just starts to literally unravel like a ball of yarn. It's amazing how that happens. And it can be a bit challenging as well, because as we begin to let go of and give up this automatic way of being, there's a discomfort in that, because we think it's a fear, I guess, really, of, oh my God, is something going to happen? My thing of perfection, like, that's a hard thing for me to totally get comfortable with. I'm not. But at the same time, as I begin to unravel the mystery, I could call it, of my behaviors or my beliefs around perfection, then things begin to ease up. And at least, if nothing else, I begin to let go of some of the tension around certain things. So that's huge. So, like I said, I don't know if I'm making sense. I'd like to make sense out of this, but it's something that's not normally discussed. And so it's difficult to know how another is going to receive this. So and obviously, if somebody's out there that needs to hear it, you will hear it and understand it. That's how I believe it works. So my suggestion to you is give this a shot. All you have to do is really begin to notice, or make an intention that you want to notice what you do and how you react and how you move through life automatically. Those certain ways that you react to something, certain beliefs that keep you in a certain mindset, but they're just automatic. It's not something that you pause and think about or research, or it's none of that. No, it's automatic. And many times it's like so under the radar that you really have to move in with an intentional decision that I want to see why do I do this? Where did this come from? And the more often you start to look at these things, then the easier it becomes to start to unravel as well. So, there you have it, or not. As I'm talking about this, I'm really getting that much of what we're going to be going through in the next whatever time period, years, whatever, is that this need to really, with self-inquiry, examine again to the smallest details of what makes us tick, so to speak, and what are we still thinking makes us tick that no longer serves us. So it's really, the bottom line is it's discovering the true you, the true me, and the true you, and the true everybody. In other words, the authentic being, without all of this programming and belief systems and garbage and whatever else we want to call it, without any of that being attached to us or us being attached to it, will then move toward being our true selves. And that is where the magic happens. So give it a shot, you know, give it a thought, see what you find. And maybe, you know, if none of this makes sense to you, then this isn't what you need to hear, right? It's not something you're resonating with. But if it is, or you're getting kind of a clue of something that, wait a minute, maybe this has something for me in it, and then start just asking the question and trust that your guides are they're gonna be so excited, mine were, that I'm starting to really be willing to look at this stuff from a completely different point of view, different mindset, that they're going to be there to help us, to help you, and help everyone. Because that's what's going on right now. That's the other thing that is going on, is our guides are really like they've never been, pulling together and supporting us in ways that they probably haven't before. Not to say they haven't supported us, but right now this is bringing on support that's just never been experienced before. So, you know, you've got that going on, so that should help in easing any fears of doing this, right? So I'm going to end with this idea of, you know, going within, and just let me give you a few ideas here that have helped me. And the first thing is to just have an awareness and an intention that I want to become aware in the moment of when I'm doing something automatic. You don't need to put what it is. Just you have an intention and you want to become aware of whatever is something you're doing automatically. And stay with that until you have an insight. And then once you get that insight, that moment of, oh, maybe it's this, then allow it to unfold, but stay open-minded. Do not try to figure it out. Don't try to fix it, figure it, make it happen, nothing. This is really a time of, in a way, doing nothing other than having an intention of wanting to see through this. So that's the beginning, and then it'll take its own, what do I want to call it? It'll travel on its own and reveal to you exactly what you need to know. It's pretty magical. It really is. And it's a real experience. I mean, it's one that I've gotten very, very passionate about and excited about. And even though, you know, I have to go through that, oh my God, type of feeling and some of the angst or fear around it, but that doesn't last. It really doesn't. And so that's what I'm sharing today. And like I said, I hope it made sense. So in the meantime, be kind to yourself. This is part of it too, I think. The more I can start to allow some kindness, some forgiveness, some, you know, for me again, allowing myself not to have perfection, then it's easing me also then into having more of this stuff exposed. Just the other day, I think it was yesterday, it was kind of by accident that I discovered that I was having a lot of echo sounds from the microphone I was using. And I didn't realize this was going on until I don't know, I was listening to something, or actually I think my husband was. We were trying to figure something out, and he goes, wait, where's this echo coming from? Well, in the past, I would have freaked, like, oh my God, how many videos do I have up with this weird sound, this echoing, or this, it was different things. It wasn't like you couldn't understand me, but, you know, it wasn't perfect. And it's like I realized I didn't freak out, and we worked with the microphone, and hopefully, actually, this is the first time I'm using the microphone again since we figured this out. So hopefully it's going to be fixed, but I just didn't freak, I let go of that perfection. I've let go of trying to edit these videos. It's not my thing. I don't like, it's not my thing. So I'm letting go of perfection again in these ways. So that gives an example of my particular thing of the underlying current is perfection, and then it goes out to all the other places. So there is a great advantage in trying to trying to discover what it is for you. So in the meantime, like I said, be kind to yourself, and until next time, take care. I'm going to click off. I'm going to see if I just click once. Nope.